Hello and welcome again to the Writer Review. This is Eric Carrot Writer, and this week we're going to be taking a look back at the 2001 movie titled The Musketeer. Now, The Musketeer was directed by Peter Hyams, and it was produced by Mosh Diamant. The script was written by Jean Quintano, based on the novel by Alexandre Dumas. The music was done by David Arnold. Peter Hyams also served as the cinematographer along with Stefano Paradiso. The editing was done by Terry Rawlings, plus also the stunt coordination was done by Jin Zhang. And the stars of the movie were Justin Chambers, Tim Roth, Stephen Ray, Mena Suvari, Catherine Deneuve, Daniel Mezgwich, Nick Moran, Steve Speirs, and Jan-Gregor Kremp. The main centerpiece to the 2000 edition to the Three Musketeers adaptation, simply titled The Musketeer, is that they set the bar low by replacing old-style French swordplay with ancient Chinese swordplay. But this exhibition is only featured near the end of the movie, where the lazy art direction is nothing more than an array of dark, isolated, cramped rooms with ladders aplenty. I guess you could tell from my rant that I truly did not enjoy this film at all. Our hero is an incoherent, mumbling protagonist by the name of D'Artagnan, played by Justin Chambers, as he engages into battle with the evil homicidal maniac named Febre, played by Tim Roth, in a fight to the death where our rivals awkwardly crash and stagger in a narrow room, and just for flawed entertainment, they eventually engage in a game of teeter-totter on a ladder balanced onto a beam. Like all the other action scenes in this movie, the final battle lacks in any kind of engaging or exciting value. All that campfire lumber is crammed and scattered all over the place, and it makes the fight scenes very, very hard to move around. And you know what makes matters worse is that the editing is frenzied with poorly constructed jump cut rhythm. The choreography is perhaps one of the most graceless and confusing exhibitions that I have seen in a very long time. It also lacks enthusiasm and spontaneousness. The death scene near the end was also displayed quite mundanely, and you wouldn't know what hit you till it bites you in the lower crevices of the human anatomy. Peter Hyams is the director of this insult to Alexandre Dumas, and he also serves as the cinematography. The film, may look old school, but it serves as a new school denomination, which means the old school fight scenes are replaced by new methods as a way to sort of fit the modern spirit. For instance, the wide view angle of a royal carriage being drawn by horsemen and a castle is being under attack falls into a disjointed mess and makes you ponder what has just transpired, and the scene-setting logistics never panned out to begin with. Also, in terms of dramatic integrity, it has trouble deciding whether it wants to be filmed as an old-school Errol Flynn traditional costume period piece drama, or a more modernized MTV type movie with more modern language and movements. Either way, both juxtapositions just never seem to mesh. In the performance department, I'll give you credit. Justin Chambers looks and fits the part quite authentically in the physical sense. But once he opens his mouth, it's a whole different neck of the woods. His voice is so monotone and dry that he is less entertaining than watching paint dry. Now Mena Suvari, well, she fares better as his peasant lover Francesca, and she definitely has a bit of gleaming charm in her eyes. But the lines fed to her in the script written by Gene Quintano is enough to make you want to poke your eyes out with a stick, especially the threat she did to her incestual uncle as she was threatening to take the dagger that she had underneath her and to castrate his balls. I mean, just thinking that she was going to say something like that in a period piece film is enough to make anyone cringe. The supporting cast members seem to fare as a bit of hit or miss. Catherine Deneuve, she was definitely the best performer as the kindred queen of France. But there was a problem too. Queen Anne was supposed to be like in her mid-20s. And just like Daniel Moskowitz, who played King Louis XIII, he too was supposed to be somewhere in his late 20s, maybe early 30s. Not, like middle-aged. But, I'm not going to let that minor quibble fail me. She actually did capture the essence of period piece France quite well. And she does everything you would expect in an Alexandre Dumas novel. Stephen Rea was also second in line of the great performances here, as he captures kind of like the political state of mind in the time period as the equally diabolical Cardinal Richelieu, who wants nothing more than to overthrow the power of the king and queen. And then you got Tim Roth. Tim Roth as the evil Fabre. It seems like he was just living off his character villain from Rob Roy, although it looks as if he just can't seem to play off his role because his performance is just too far out there from reality. And of course there was also times when he looks like he's lost enthusiasm, like he was tired of being typecasted, so then he decides to go for just a subpar performance. Or maybe he kind of felt like he just wanted to walk out of this messy debacle that is the Musketeer. But I guess his contract just couldn't let him do that. So I guess as an act of retaliation, he decides to just play it mediocre. And that's exactly what I get from Tim Roth. On the whole, the most accurate thing about the Musketeer is that the city of Paris was waddling in its filth, as the cobblestone roads were saturated with mud and debris, and the taverns were definitely filled with drunken slaves and slobs, and that also includes the Three Musketeers themselves. It makes you wonder why our leading stars are meandering around these condemned streets in clothing that looks quite uncomfortable. Hey, am I missing something here? What's the point of reviewing a movie about the Musketeer without giving mention to the swashbuckling triad themselves, the Three Musketeers? I mean, D'Artagnan's allies, Aramis, played by Nick Moran, Porthos, played by Steven Speirs, and Athos, played by Jan-Gregor Kremp, are only on sporadically, and there's really not much to talk about here. Their mentioning is just a mere cry for help to appease the die-hard action junkie. Sure, their ironic battle cry, all for one and one for all, can be echoed through the realms of the film repeatedly, but sadly it just never comes into full effect. If I was to give this movie a scale out of 10, I would have to give it only a 5. It was really that bad. I mean, I could have given it lower than that, but I guess I sort of have a soft spot for Alexandre Dumas and in his literary work. I mean, he's like number 2, with Shakespeare being number 1, and number 2 is Dumas. And it was just a shame how this movie was completely massacred. Shame on Peter Hyams. Alexandre Dumas must be rolling in his grave. And it just really was not really up there. I mean, I thought that I was expecting maybe Mr. Chambers to do a little bit of a better job than that over-the-top performance that Chris O'Donnell did in the previous Three Musketeers movie. But here he decides to just go dry. And he was boring too. There was a lot of anomalies. Even the sword fights and the action scenes feels more Asian than it does European. I mean, the stunt work was Asian. I know this was coming from a stunt coordinator who is from Hong Kong, but what was happening? Was there a strike in Europe that they couldn't find a European stunt coordinator to learn the sword fighting skills like a European? I mean, this is what really made this movie so surreal. But if you didn't have a chance to see the Musketeer, well, I suggest you see it for yourself. Maybe you may have a differing interpretation, but I certainly will not recommend this movie. I'm sorry. Well, I guess this kind of ends my writer review. Thank you all for listening in. Please write back to me. Remember, be kind, be courteous, and I will be back again with another writer review. Until next time, keep watching those movies, and I will see you then. Goodbye.